Thanks for joining us tonight on another episode of The Racing Report. My name is Rob Peeters, and I'm so glad you guys have decided to tune in for another fabulous little half hour where we're going to talk all things motorsports. Because on today's show, we have a lot of news and notes that's coming out of the world of NASCAR, Formula One, IndyCar, Formula E, sports cars, all you name it. We've got a lot to going on, and we've got Formula One racing this weekend at Qatar. We also had Formula One racing this past weekend with the Las Vegas Grand Prix. We'll talk about all of the news and notes from the fallout from that, getting ready to go up over to Qatar. Then we've also got news from the NASCAR lawsuit, some unsealed documents that the jury that is being selected on Monday will not see, but we can see, and we'll break all of that down for you here coming up in this next half hour. And then we had a crazy end of the Super Formula Championship, so if you're not familiar with the Japanese racing series, we'll break it down for you here because it was one to behold. So before we go ahead and do all that, make sure if you like this show to go ahead and give me a follow. That's you could do so by looking up at rpeeters33. That's RPEETERS 33. I'm on all forms of social media. Wherever you want to get me, I'm there. And then make sure to have that WTHR Plus app installed on your smart TV so that you get brand new Racing Report episodes each and every week. We do a new show each and every week of the racing season, so you won't want to miss it. We still got a couple of races left coming up before Formula E starts in December, and then we'll take a little break in December before coming back in January. So let's go ahead and jump right on into the news of the week. We'll start off in Formula One, and this was big news. Aston Martin has named Adrian Newey as its team principal beginning next season. Newey will replace Andy Cowell, who will become the team's chief strategy officer. So some big shakeups there. I know Christian Horner was rumored to potentially be the next Aston Martin team principal, but instead they've taken Adrian Newey, who's been the engineer, one of the most successful Formula One engineers of the past 15 years, really, and he's going to join, not even 15 years, more than that. Good gracious. He's going to join Aston Martin. Well, he's already at Aston Martin, but he's going to become the team principal beginning next season. Meanwhile, Toto Wolff has sold 15% of his share in Mercedes F1 to CrowdStrike founder George Kurtz. Kurtz will become the team's technology advisor, and that also leads the team to be valued at about 4.6 billion pounds, which is a lot of money no matter what currency you're talking about. So some big news there, some shakeups. But Toto Wolff told reporters over the weekend at Las Vegas that he didn't plan to change anything with how his involvement in the team. Still plans to continue to be team principal for the foreseeable future, as we can say right now. Finally, as will be the unfortunate theme of this week's show, again, more lawsuits to talk about. Good gracious, I feel like I'm becoming a court reporter now. Felipe Massa's claim for damages relating to the Formula One Crashgate scandal of 2008 can continue to trial. That's what a court ruled this past week, but other aspects of the legal action have been dismissed. Now, if you're unfamiliar with this, we haven't really talked about it much on this show, but Felipe Massa is seeking damages and compensation of around 64 million pounds. That's the equivalent to 84 million US dollars, arguing that that the results of the 2008 Singapore Grand Prix should have been nullified, and if they were, he would have won the championship. Because if you recall, if you watched Formula One back then, it was literally a 1-point difference between him and Lewis Hamilton. And if you recall the famous "Is that Glock" line that has been going around. Of course, if you were watching on Speed Channel, I don't think they were shouting "Is that Glock," but those watching over in Europe probably remember that. And so the judge has basically said, no, you're not going to get the world championship, but we may or may not reward you damages. So that trial can move forward, but those other motions that Felipe Massa has filed have been dismissed. But the damages that he's seeking can still go to trial. Now, he claims that the FIA, Formula One, and former CEO Bernie Ecclestone conspired to deny him the 2008 title. So all of this is apparently going to trial, but Lewis Hamilton is not going to be stripped of one of his 7 Formula One World Championships. But Felipe Massa may get some sort of compensation for what he claims should have been damaged. And to be honest with you, he does kind of have a case here. Those results should have probably been nullified given the very obvious and blatant race manipulation that went on. But again, this was in 2008. This was a very, very long time ago. And again, if you're not familiar with the 2008 Crashgate scandal, it was basically a situation in which Renault's team principal, Flavio Briatore, basically told Nelson Piquet Jr. to crash on purpose to benefit Fernando Alonso, who was basically had a terrible strategy at the time and was behind where they thought that he should be. So they manipulated the race by telling Piquet to crash. This has been very controversial for a number of years now, so I imagine most people watching this are familiar with it, but if you're not, there's your quick little crash course. Again, not a lot of time to go into details about that. There's plenty of information online if you want to go ahead and look that up. But let's go ahead and now move on into the world of IndyCar because it's official. Mick Schumacher is going to be joining Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing beginning next season. That's right, the 2020 Formula 2 champion and, of course, son of seven-time Formula 1 world champion Michael Schumacher is going IndyCar racing next season. He's excited for the opportunity, telling reporters that this is the next step in his racing career. And now it's important to note that he actually left a factory WEC team ride with Alpine to race IndyCar for RLL. And everybody at RLL has been nothing but complimentary of Schumacher, saying that he impressed them by a lot during the IMS test that he had not long ago. And so this is just a big deal for Mick Schumacher to come over here and race IndyCar. And it is kind of interesting given his father's comments about IndyCar racing in the past, but I think Mick Schumacher should be taken at face value. And remember, he is really no slouch. If you look at the competition that he was racing against in the 2020 Formula 2 series, a lot of those drivers have either gone on to Formula 1 or come over to IndyCar and had success in both series. So I'm very excited to see what this is going to do. I'm excited to see Mick Schumacher running around the oval come the month of May of 2026. Boy, can't get here soon enough. I'm looking forward to that. But some big news there in the world of IndyCar. But that's not it for Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing, as they have announced that former Arrow McLaren team principal Gavin Ward will join the team in a special advisory role. So that it's really not clear exactly what role he's going to serve with the team, but nonetheless, that's a huge addition to a team that also has added Jay Fry in the past couple of months. So again, a lot to look forward to if you're a fan of the Zionsville-based Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing team coming up here in the next season for IndyCar. But that's about it for the IndyCar news. Not a lot. Again, long off season in IndyCar. We still got a while to go, 3 months at least coming up here until the IndyCar season begins in March 1st at St. Petersburg. They'll be joined again, if you remember, by the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series for what will be their first ever street race. So a lot to look forward to there. But before we go ahead and take our first break of the show, let's go ahead and talk about some Formula E news because, again, the Formula E season is coming up in just a couple of weeks. So next week, we're going to see the Formula E Sao Paulo E-Prix kick off the 2025-2026 season in Formula E. And we've got some driver news, even though this grid is complete. Sam Bird, who wasn't able to land a ride in Formula E this season, has announced that he has joined Nissan to be their reserve and development driver. Now, Sam Bird has been a long-standing name in Formula E, basically since this championship has existed. He's a 12-time race winner in Formula E, best finish of third in the championship, but unfortunately he wasn't able to land a ride for this upcoming season, but so he's decided he wants to still stay at the championship, and he will join Nissan as a reserve and development driver. Finally, in the world of Formula E, Mahindra Racing has announced that they have committed to fielding a team in the series through the 2030 season, so that's great news for the series and for Mahindra Racing. That's really good stability that I think benefits everybody. And again, as we're talking about next season in Formula E, when that Gen 4 chassis is revealed, oh my goodness, it's going to be fun. The renders I've already seen, I mean, that's a race car. I tell you what, it might be electric, and some people might not exactly like that, but let me tell you something, that is a fast-looking race car, and I'm excited to watch it go around the street circuits of Formula E coming up here next year. Not this season, but the next Formula E season, so the 26 to 27 season. All right, let's go ahead and take our first break of the show, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the news and notes of supercars as they head into the Adelaide Grand Final this weekend, and we're also going to break down some very, very nasty texts that have been revealed in the NASCAR versus 2311 FRM lawsuit. So, don't go anywhere. You are watching The Racing Report. And welcome back to The Racing Report. Thanks so much for sticking with us through that break. My name is Rob Peeters. Let's go ahead and jump right on into the Supercars news and notes of the show because there's a lot to get to, let me tell you. First and foremost, like I said, or before the break, this weekend is the Adelaide Grand Final. So there's going to be 3 races that will determine the championship in supercars. Now, if you're not familiar with who's driving in the championship, that's okay. We talked about it last week. And it's going to be Brock Feeney is obviously the number 1 seed in there. And then also you'll have Chaz Mostert and Will Brown, and then Kai Allen, who is the, I guess, underdog of the Supercars season this year, getting in basically at the last possible minute after his teammate Matt Payne was eliminated after contact with Cam Waters at Sandown. Again, very interesting. But in all of that, because this is Supercars' first ever championship elimination style of points, drivers have been warned by series officials that they could face massive fines for attempts to manipulate any of the 3 races during this weekend's Adelaide Grand Final. It has been reported that the drivers could face up to a $444,000 Australian dollar fine, disqualification, and a possible race ban. So that's all that those drivers can face if they are found guilty of manipulating any of those races. So let's say hypothetically, Grove Racing is not happy necessarily about Matt Payne being eliminated, so they want to try and get Kai Allen into that championship. They've got to be very careful. The same goes for literally the rest of the team. Chaz Mostert, obviously, he's got to be careful his teammate doesn't do anything. Obviously, the 2 Red Bulls should probably not try to benefit one another, but who knows? And again, this is the Pandora's box that you open up when a championship is determined like this. We've seen it in NASCAR before. We're kind of seeing it now but I don't think it'll be that bad. I really don't think we have anything to worry about, but it is important to note that drivers are being threatened with hefty fines, disqualifications, and race bans if they're found guilty of doing anything like that. Now let's talk about some positive news here for a little bit. Supercars and the government of Western Australia have confirmed plans to build a new multi-purpose area that will feature a race circuit. It'll be called Perth Park. It's a $217.5 million project that will feature a 3.4 kilometer FIA Grade 3 racetrack around that area, and it's slated to join the Supercars calendar in the 2028 season. Now, this again extends Wanneroo Raceway, which was expected to fall off the calendar after next season, but it is expected that that track will continue to be on the Supercars calendar in 2027, with it eventually being replaced with this Perth Park track in 2028. So some big news there for Supercars down under, especially in Western Australia and in Perth. Brody Kostecki has signed a contract extension with Dick Johnson Racing that will keep him with the team through 2030. So some big news there. Brody, again, a former series champion in Supercars, has a NASCAR start, got part of his start actually over here in the States, racing some regional NASCAR series, which is kind of always a cool fun fact if you're ever interested. But he's sticking with Dick Johnson Racing for at least the next 5 years, so that's good news for him. And then finally, as we talk about supercars, they have opted to delay the introduction of Gen 3 cars to Super 2, into the Super 2 category, until 2028. So if you're not familiar with Super 2, which is where Jesse Love, the reigning NASCAR Xfinity Series champion, he will be racing there this weekend. Not in the main supercars races, in the Super 2. That's important to remember. Austin Cindric is going to race in the actual supercars Adelaide Grand Final, but Jesse Love will be in the Super 2 category, which is driving older model chassis from the supercars of yesteryear, but not too old. Obviously, they're still car of the future, the Gen 2, I guess you could say. Supercars, they're still racing those, but we know that the Gen 3 cars will not enter that specific category until at least 2028. But that is it for the Supercars news of the week. Again, we'll get you caught up more on the Adelaide Grand Final coming up here later on in the show. But let's talk about the NASCAR news, because this, you can't ignore it at this point. This is important to talk about. There have been several emails, text messages, and documents that have been unsealed prior to the NASCAR/2311 FRM lawsuit that is a trial, that is set to start December 1st. Jury selection starts Monday, December 1st. That is when the trial is expected to kick off, and these are the documents that have been unsealed, and they will not be shown to a jury. That's what's important to note, is they will not be shown to a jury. So the jury that is going to be selected here will not be able to see any of these documents during the trial, but we can, because they've been unsealed. So a bunch of different NASCAR reporters, thank everybody, all of those NASCAR reporters, Bob Pockris specifically, Kelly Crandall's been doing a great job, Jeff Gluck, Jordan Bianchi of The Athletic have been doing a great job, John Newby, he's been doing a great job, Matt Weaver's been doing a great job. Forgive me if I've missed anybody, but they've all been doing a great job grabbing and really breaking down these documents to help us digest it. And so again, I highly recommend you guys go to their specific Twitter accounts, because they'll tell you, they'll show you specifically in detail what these text messages and these documents look like. But I'm going to summarize them here for you now, and they're not going to be pretty. So first and foremost, we got to get the big things out of the way. In some text messages, then NASCAR President Steve Phelps and then Chief Operating Officer Steve O'Donnell were texting back and forth and said they, quote, need to put a knife in SRX, and calling it a trash series. But what's interesting to note about that is they did seem to indicate in those text messages that they were going to go to tracks like Bowman Gray and North Wilkesboro, and that, they didn't seem happy about that. And yet what ended up happening not long after? Well, SRX goes to IRP. Next thing you know, NASCAR's back at IRP, Indianapolis Raceway Park. SRX says they want to go, they want to get at Bowman Gray. We're targeting, North Wilkesboro. NASCAR says, whoa, hold on. We're going to do that first. Obviously, that didn't come to fruition, but definitely very interesting conversations as it seems as though the NASCAR executives saw SRX as a threat, and they also very much did not like their drivers, specifically Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, Justin Marks, team owner of Trackhouse Racing. They didn't like him racing in the series. They didn't like the fact that it was on competing networks. They didn't like the fact that their drivers were racing on a competing network in CBS or ESPN, which, again, has not had NASCAR broadcast rights. ESPN has not had broadcast rights since 2014 for NASCAR, and CBS hasn't broadcast a NASCAR race since 2000. So, again, they were not exactly too happy about this. But some of the other text messages that we saw, saw Steve Phelps, NASCAR president, current NASCAR president, texting that Richard Childress should be, quote, taken out back and flogged, and then calling him a, quote, stupid redneck who owes his entire fortune to NASCAR. Now, this is very inflammatory, and again, I am quoting specifically from these text messages that were unsealed documents that were thrown out by the judge and said the jury cannot see them, but the general public can. This is very, very bad. And as a result, Richard Childress is now threatening legal action, or at least contemplating legal action. Now, do I think that he has a case? Most likely not. But I do believe that the threat is enough to likely push NASCAR in a different direction here. Now, it's important to note that it's been reported that Steve Phelps has reached out to Richard Childress and preemptively apologized and preemptively said, hey, you're going to read something that's not exactly going to be pretty that I said about you, and you're not going to like it. Well, that didn't seem to do much because, again, we got a press release from Richard Childress Racing saying that they were not happy with the words that were used, obviously saying he's a stupid redneck and that he should be taken out back and flogged, which is, again, an insane thing for an executive to say about a team owner. I mean, it's like Roger Goodell saying the same thing about Jerry Jones. I mean, I know it's not a one-to-one comparison here. And again, preface, that's just a hypothetical. It's comparison if that happened. It hasn't happened. But it's a very interesting situation that's going on in the world of NASCAR. Now, that's not the only text message chain that was revealed. Another text message chain between NASCAR Executive Vice President John Probst and competition strategist Scott Miller showed that the two were criticizing Rick Ware Racing and Live Fast Motorsports, which was at the time owned by BJ McLeod and Matt Tifft, saying that they were accusing them of leeching off of NASCAR and the charter system. Basically, they were saying teams like Spire and Front Row Motorsports were maybe salvageable, but accusing these other two teams, Rick Ware Racing and Live Fast, which again we know has since sold its charter, and Rick Ware Racing has since sold at least one of its charters. They're accusing them of basically leeching off of NASCAR and using the charter system almost as if it was the way it was intended when it was first proposed in late 2015. Interesting. Anyway, but yeah, not a good look from that point, but that's not it. That's not all. This is the last piece of news we got to talk about that. An unnamed person. Now, that's important to note. We don't know who this person is. Their name has clearly been redacted from the files, but we do know who they were texting with. They were texting with Spire co-owner and former NASCAR executive Jeff Dickerson, saying that all NASCAR fans, quote, don't all read, referring to a hypothetical tell-all book that they could publish regarding everything that's been going on leading up to this. So you have an unnamed person talking back and forth with Spire co-owner and basically saying that the NASCAR fans can't read. We don't know who this person is. We have no idea who this person is. Their name has been redacted from the documents, but that is a very offensive statement, in all honesty. And I understand the stereotype around NASCAR fans is what it is, but to hear somebody text like that and have that kind of language, especially going back to them, the Steve Phelps and Steve O'Donnell calling Richard Childress a stupid redneck and saying he should be violently beaten, it's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate, and it leaves a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. And it's important to know that NASCAR does have the right to defend themselves, but they haven't. We usually in these situations, someone will put out a statement, a PR firm will put out a statement, but we don't have any PR statements from NASCAR, again, because the trial is so close. And that kind of, again, is it's making a lot of NASCAR fans very, very weary going forward. But again, research all of this on your own. This is just what I'm telling you. This is just what I know. I've only got 30 minutes to break it all down. We don't have a lot of time in the show. But that, again, some very, very concerning text messages that were, again, it's important to note, again, that these will not be used in the trial. But the damage is now done. So let's go ahead and just move on into some happier news, shall we? Red Bull has announced that they will sponsor Shane Van Gisbergen and Connor Zilisch in 25 NASCAR Cup Series races beginning in 2026. Good news there. Love to see Red Bull back in the Cup Series and love to see them expand their sponsorship commitment. Next up is Brent Cruz will drive the number 19 for Joe Gibbs Racing in 29 O'Reilly Auto Parts Series races beginning next season. It's important to note he does turn 18 March 30th. That could eventually lead to maybe some more races for him, but that also is a big reason why he's not running the full season, because he won't be old enough to run the bigger tracks. But still some news there. It's TBD who will be filling in for him on those bigger tracks. Meanwhile, Sigma Performance Service has acquired AM Racing and will field Ford entries in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series and ARCA Menard Series beginning next season. As who will drive for those, what those numbers will be, how many cars there will be, still TBD. But at least one Ford team will be in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series next year. Blaine Perkins is going to return to Jordan Anderson Racing in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series for 2026, and Christian Eckes will return to the Truck Series. He will pilot the number 91 for McAnally Hilgeman Racing beginning next season. So that is it for the NASCAR news of the show. We've got to take our final break, and when we come back, we're going to recap everything that happened in the Formula One Las Vegas Grand Prix, and we're going to talk about the crazy fun that was had in the Super Formula triple header finale at Suzuka. So don't go anywhere. You're watching The Racing Report. And we're back on The Racing Report. Thanks so much for sticking with us through that break. Let's go ahead and talk about the weekend recap because, boy, crazy things happen in the world of Formula One. So first of all, Lando Norris got the pole at the Las Vegas Grand Prix in a very, very rainy qualifying session. Yeah, not really used to seeing a lot of rain in Las Vegas, but it was a downpour for sure. Wet tires were used, full wets. We're not talking intermediates, we're talking the full wets were used during qualifying for the Las Vegas Grand Prix. And then, as soon as the lights went out, Turn 1, lap 1, Lando Norris immediately goes to block Max Verstappen, overshoots turn 1, and the rest is history. The race now becomes Max Verstappen's, and Lando Norris tentatively finishes second until we find out much later in the night, when basically everybody who was still awake had gone to bed, that the McLarens were under scrutiny, that they had potentially failed post-race technical inspection. And sure enough, they had. It was found that their rear skids were under the minimum thickness of 9 millimeters, so therefore both Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri were disqualified from the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Now, what did this do? This basically tightened the points up even more than I thought was even possible. Now, with 2 races to go, including a sprint race. So now, here's where we're going. Max Verstappen and Oscar Piastri are now tied for second in the Formula One points. Verstappen and Piastri are now 24 points behind Lando Norris. 24 points. Now remember, in Formula One, a race victory is worth 25 points. And you can get 26 by getting the fastest lap. Well, not anymore. Never mind. But you can get 25 points for winning a race, and 8 points are up for grabs in the sprint race. Anything can obviously happen, but now we have a much tighter points battle than anybody expected coming in this weekend into Qatar. Now, it's also important to note, as we've talked about last week, that the Qatar Grand Prix will be a mandatory 2-stop race, which could go either way. It could make for some fun races. It could make for a boring race. Who knows? But what's really going to be important is to pay attention to that sprint race, because if Max Verstappen is able to go out there and win that sprint race, and Lando Norris, for whatever reason, has a problem in either the sprint or the Grand Prix, we could be having a very, very close points battle come Abu Dhabi here in 2 weeks' time. If you're not watching Formula One right now, I highly recommend at least checking it out for the last 2 races, because, boy, who saw this coming? And then let's go ahead and talk about, like I've alluded to this, the Super Formula Championship was decided this past weekend in Suzuka, a triple header of sorts. Like, again, remember, because a race earlier this season was postponed or canceled, for rain, big time downfall, basically flooding almost. They decided, we'll just add an extra race into the Suzuka race weekend. And what did it end up doing? Well, Red Bull Jr., Ayumu Iwasa stole the Super Formula title from Sho Suboi by 4.5 points. Is all it took, and all he had to do was win the final race to do it. So he won the 3rd race at Suzuka over the weekend. Now, remember, Ayumu Iwasa has been racing. He's raced in Formula 2. I want to say he's tested at IndyCar or something. I even read an article that said he would be, quote, better than Yuki Tsunoda at Red Bull. Hold on. I'm not sure I believe that, but it's an article from somebody. Somebody said it. But either way, he has stolen the Super Formula Championship right from under Sho Suboi, who was the favorite going in. Definitely, again, a very fun race. And if you're curious, the winners of races 1 and 2 were Tomoki Nojiri and Igor Fraga, a Brazilian, not a Japanese driver. A Brazilian was the victor in race 2. But, it's not uncommon for the Super Formula to have international drivers come in. Sometimes they're American, sometimes, is what it is. Alex Palou got his first big break in Super Formula. Team Go, which was a team in Super Formula, is the team that partnered with Dale Coyne Racing to bring him to IndyCar all the way back in 2020. So, again, just keep that in mind when you're watching Super Formula, if you are. But let's go ahead and wrap up the show this week and talk about the races that are coming up. Like we already said, the Formula One the Formula One Qatar Grand Prix is this weekend. 24 points now separate Lando Norris from his teammate Oscar Piastri and rival Max Verstappen, with a sprint race to boot and a mandatory two-stop race. And then, of course, the Adelaide Grand Final in Supercars. Like I said, let's go ahead and recap again. It's going to be Brock Feeney, Chaz Mostert, and then Will Brown and Kai Allen going for a Supercars championship over 3 races in Adelaide. And remember, Austin Cindric, 2022 Daytona 500 winner and 2020 at NASCAR Xfinity Series champion, will be racing for Tickford Racing coming up this weekend as well. He'll be in that race. So definitely a lot of reasons to go tune in if you haven't. Supercars Superview, still about only $7 for YouTube. You can go ahead and subscribe to that, cancel after one race. I think it'll be worth it at the very least to watch this race weekend. So, again, thank you all for tuning in this week. We really appreciate it. We thank you for all of your support. We hope you have had a wonderful Thanksgiving. We hope that you have a wonderful coming up here holiday season. We still got a couple of shows left before the end of the year, and we're hoping that you continue to tune in as we wrap up the Motorsports season for 2025 and look ahead to 2026. So, for WTHR Plus, my name is Rob Peeters, and this has been the Racing Report.